everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today's episode is being recorded on 8/10/25. This is another Q&A, folks. There's going to be at least one more of these. Before we get to any of this, I now open this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. So, Joanna?
We are all one. And when one is harmed, all are harmed. When one is helped, all are helped. Therefore, in the name of who I am, and I am one with all there is, that only the highest good be done. We pray for you, your friends, your family, your loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love you, let them nourish you, and let them bring you to your highest good. We pray for ourselves, our friends, our family, our loved ones, to let healing energies in. Let them love us, let them nourish us, and let them bring us to our highest good. We ask benevolence now to come in with no conflicting agenda in order that we can have this conversation in great understanding. And we ask for mischievous or malevolent type beings to be swept away so that we may have this conversation in peace. And with that, and with great blessings that we always send your way, we do say so be it.
And so be it. As I've said, this is going to be Q&A. I will give now the affirmation and blessing here. To the horrors and vices of life, life through them smile often, or live through them smile often, even in times where it could embarrass you. In times of happiness, stay there. Musician Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. So, the first thing, it was a video link, but it was way too long. It's on the Channeling Eric YouTube, by the way, about Brian Wilson, part 1, I believe it is. This is actually was quite interesting. I'll have to read this one. This is more of a comment / question, though. It's basically because the only reason I'm going to say this is because the answer had to do with this comment. The comment question was, once again, Eric seems to protect his mom from the darker side of the musician's life. If Brian comes through, tell him thank you for all he gave us. So what the thing of it is, I noticed, and nothing bashing Channeling Eric, great channel, but the sources have to quit watering stuff down. This is a kind of becoming a peeve of mine. So they have to stop watering stuff down constantly and give the exact things that happen. They're picking the happier things because they think that the channelers can handle that. And Eric himself seems to be buffering this. So I will, I can even post a link in the descriptor, but we're not going to go into the video here. So I will go into, normally we don't make comments like this, but this was actually very poignant to a point that I needed to make here. So here's the channel from both Brian Wilson and Eric. So, I protect her from connection to certain information to prevent blowback, quote unquote. Brian will say now. I was plagued by demons, both internal and external. I filtered what I said to the two wonderful ladies for the very same reasons Eric does. Not all need be said for all people. That is all for now. Eric from Channeling Eric and musician Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. Yes, I get that reason. But on the same token, you got to say both sides, because if you don't take that information and start telling all the channelers the same truthful information, there's some variance. Some people will fill it in with both their imaginations and fill that in and think it's either all good or all bad, or all the blowback hits the ones that poke their head above the clouds. So targeting hits everybody. Psionically, you poke your head above the psionic dampening, boom. So with that said, if you give everybody that information, it spreads. And therefore, there really is no blowback in time for any of it. And so this is where me and both of them will disagree. They'll just agree to disagree on that one. So we will go into the next question.
Was Operation Mockingbird part of the aviary, all birds labeled ops?
I find this interesting because the aviary would be like Doty, and I believe Corey Good was part of that, and Hal Puthoff, and all those, you've probably heard of that. We say Dodo, but this case, the aviary came up this way. So, and Isaac goes, yes, and yes. All all bird related anything is an op of some sort, no exceptions, done. What he's trying to say is, and we also just brought a little bit of this up on the roundtable we just did as well, where the story of the Anunnaki, the bird ones, were the creators of humanity. That's not exactly it, because the earth was seeded by people from outside. They just altered and tinkered with us, is what really what it was. Bird op, that would be Zachariah Sitchin. Bird op, that would also be Blue Avians, Corey Good. Bird op, any of it is essentially where you can find this op. Now, one of the funnier bird op parodies I have ever seen that would describe it in a humorous way would be Star Trek Lower Decks, where they go to this planet of all bird people, and they had all the different types of birds, like was in the aviary, the owl, the falcon, all of them. They had all of them, and they were basically called them Planet Areolus. They were trying to say they were Planet of Boobs, was essentially, and somebody was making fun of the bird ops. I found that personally hilarious. Part of me was laughing at that, and then I figured out, going, okay, this is making fun of these ops. What he's trying to say is the bird op, look into this, and also Operation Mockingbird was also one of those bird ops as well. So I find that he said basically bird anything, and that has to do with the CIA's manipulation of events, essentially is what that was. So I will move on to the next one. This one's actually a funny one.
What was the true meaning behind the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle jean ad?
Okay. Isaac brought humor to this one in his usual way. Hotness rolled into denim. However, was there a hidden Nazi message embedded within? No. But were they saying fit is healthier, along with using Sydney Sweeney as a hot spokeswoman? Yes, they were done. Okay. That's and that's true. People were reading way too much into it. And yeah, there were genes, meaning healthier genes versus that of those causing viruses and, the fat virus and genes and all this other stuff. They were trying to bring back healthier versus the some of the woke premises of, oh, everything is beautiful, but yeah, you're also saying sometimes unhealthiness is beautiful and you can't do that. That's essentially what that was the reverse of that. So, well, we got a few here. We'll go on to this one. This one's a bigger one here.
Is there anything into the whole Lionsgate premise?
Okay, well, this one, some people are going to be pissed at what he had to say and what I'm going to say hereafter. So, other than a complete and utter psyops, no, but the co-creative energies plus some retrograde energies add to what people already have put out there. Meaning, once a societal seed is planted, people then expect rougher and or more powerful energies on the supposed Lionsgate, of which was created by the three-letter agencies, namely the CIA. The same goes for the whole New Age movement back between 1993 to 1998. 1993 for the New Age movement and 1998 for the Lionsgate. Not to mention the Aslan lion from Narnia being used as a regurgitated figurehead of Christianity. People like to attribute this to the Lyrans as well. They are neither mystical nor bad. They are more like yourselves, with both kindness and retarded flaws. Some bad, some good, but none are extreme carriers / messengers of esoteric wisdom. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble, but it is what it is. Done. Now, he described it pretty well, but the Lionsgate, this happened on 8/8 every year. And believe it or not, they are trying to push this as a holiday. I have to dissuade this, because look what happens on PowerPoints of the year, or if you create one. And yes, there are some smaller ones as well. They say, oh, the 8/8 portal. What portal exactly are you referring to? That has always been nondescript in the New Age circles. What portal, where? Now retrogrades, some of it is from the planet, some is co-creation. Valiant Thor even said this, like, okay, everybody's expecting a Mercury retrograde to be bad, therefore there's an amplification of that on those PowerPoints, or when the planets actually go retrograde. Now, a lot of it's the sun doing this, reflecting off the different planets like a mirror, but some of it's this creepier mouth AI doing this, but people's thoughts are being amplified through the 5G network, and voila, you have a looshing field going on. But if you're expecting something bad to happen every time of year, like somebody's saying flu season or cold season, things of that nature, what do they try to do with flu and cold season? They try to market pharmaceuticals. What do they try to do now around the Lionsgate? What you have to ask, what are they trying to market in this? Negative energy, of course, for some of the reptilian buddies, but at the same time, what eventually they're going to try to do? Holiday? What are they going to do after that? Capitalism. So you can see marketing. So there's two sides to this. Yes, are there PowerPoints? Yes, but they're convoluting the real PowerPoint, the real things, like with Christmas, with all the or Thanksgiving with the Black Friday just prior to it. You see what happens there. Now they even made a tradition around Black Friday and Christmas Eve being these big shopping days. You see the point I'm making? So they're trying to create another one. Why they didn't choose Halloween, I don't know. But that seems to be subverted for whatever reason. That's the biggest PowerPoint of the year. You think they would have done something with that. And anybody in the government wants to make that a holiday, a legitimate one, go for it. But with this, 8/8, leave it alone. Because we don't need another one of these ones like Juneteenth or some of these other little holidays that are in there that make no sense. I know Juneteenth, they basically had it as there was something good that was behind it, that was some bad that was subverted, but then they turned it into the whole George Floyd thing and it became very ugly. But with this though, 8/8, people are always expecting every year, oh my God, here comes 8/8. This is going to be potent. This is going to be bad. Oh, there's going to be rough waters. Look, guys, with energy reports, even if you're reporting in the middle, this is rough. Great. But you can't be going, this is going to be a rough one, folks. The train's just leaving the station. You know how many times I've heard that since the mid-90s? The train's just leaving the station, boy. This is going to be a rough one where we got to get through this. When does the time come when you say we've gotten through this? When's the time come when you guys quit saying we're gonna get through this one? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Some people I've even seen in memes saying, I'm tired of trying to get through get through what makes me stronger in the end. And I'm in complete agreement of that. This falls under that category. They were hoping that you keep regurgitating this over and over and over again. Is there a particular energy at this time of year that is strong? Yeah, I have to say so. Usually August is a nothing month for that, but yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. The original premises were covered by all of this. The same goes with the Lyrans. There are a lot of great ones in there, but are they carriers of great esoteric wisdom? No, they just remember a lot more of the history than you do. That usually sounds really esoteric and high up when you hear a lot more information, a lot more knowledge that you're not used to hearing. If you're not used to hearing something about the Orion Wars, the Ragnarok, or the Great Seeding, what would that sound like to you? Great esoteric wisdom, but this is something that you already had in here anyway. It was saving the genetic memory of mankind. So it's not this big mystical thing. It's just something you forgot. And it is coming back. So it's more like an awakening, if this makes sense. So, and also the traumas of the past you think are ahead, they're behind you. So, and also one more thing I will do about the 8/8. You know what is really self-farmed? Curses. I have seen approaching the Lionsgate thing, Lionsgate. Curses constantly reattaching to people over and over and over and over. It has been the highest point of curses being thrown around that I have ever seen. And that negates Halloween, and that negates Christmas and the winter solstice there, and any of the equinoxes. People, you have to quit saying that this is going to regurgitate around and quit thinking that's around 8/8 every year. 8 and 8, yes, are powerful. They're transitionary numbers and really strong numbers. You don't want to do that. So I think I'm just going to leave that right there. Mm-hmm. So,
did Valiant Thor have my mother in a ship or a holographic room in the place called the Seven Eagles outside of Chicago in 1971.
Yeah, this is where Valiant Thor actually answered this one because she was telling us like she didn't know where a particular room was when she went back later on to a place called the Seven Eagles. And I find it I'll tell you in a second the thing with the Eagles coming up a lot. That's also something that's going to be in the next Q&A as well with Michael Jackson, but one a synchronicity with him. But with this, and this is quite interesting because in that room there was this bar that she went to and sat at, and Valiant Thor sat next to her. She went back. There was a solid wall there. There was no other room. That you can actually have photonic energy like you see in Star Trek with the holodeck, and have a seemingly solid wall there. He could have been on the other side in an actual room somewhere, or that could have been his holographic space. I'll tell you what he said here. I did change the wall, as she remembers, but it was not my ship. It was indeed a set of sorts with some of my crew members as background, but that is all. No holodeck needed. All right, that fits partially what I just said. But with that, can there be a ship disguised like you saw in Doctor Who, the apartment floor? That was a spaceship, but they disguised it as an apartment? Yeah, of course, because the original layout, the doctor finds out it had no second floor. I've seen that hundreds of times with them doing it with a spaceship, and they just change the holographics around it. That's what some people have confused as the Mandela effect, because they see a building change. That means there had been a ship there and now is no longer. But of course, the timeline's fusing and changing. That's Mandela effect. With this, yes. Now, I will point out there was an interesting synchronicity, and I'll go more into it into the next one. While the band The Eagles came up in a synchronicity as well. The number 7, that's like Gary 7 in Star Trek. That's Valiant Thor. 7 is always pointing to some weird psyops or something to do with some of the stuff in the background. 7's and 9, 7 and 9, and also going to our Roddenberry GIC for that one. And with Michael Jackson, he was talking about the lyrics in the Eagles song, Hotel California, that had to do with some of my own SSP history. But what is interesting was this also had to do with the Eagles songs. I saw this when we went to Busch Gardens. There were 2 instances of Eagles synchronicities that popped up, actual animals and the band being referenced. But right after I found out about the thing about the song lyrics, I will go into that in the very next Q&A episode that question was asked. Yeah. So I think we can move on.
What caused the earthquake near Russia on 7/30/2025?
Interesting. Some people actually were asking me this one on Facebook. So do weaponry with a hint of undersea drilling. That is all I know, Isaac. So yes, basically undersea drilling, hitting fault line, et cetera, and also do weaponry causing the shaking. That's essentially it right there. So next.
Why do people get drawn into certain sci-fi themes so much? Equally so, the horror themes.
Okay, this was actually interesting. This was Hajamal that gave this response. You saw him in the conference material as the teacher of the proper use of psionics. That's his ranking, and that's what he goes by. So they are both remembering times of both light and dark, and then equally interchanging them. Past life memories are also a factor in this. All is memory, and memory is frequency. Hajamal. So Hajamal is cool. He's very stoic, but at the same time, he's awesome. So. Okay. We're now up to the point where there's a galactic contribution. I know this was a shorty, but putting both these together, it was way too long. So the rest of the questions are in the next one, guys. So, all right. Who is going to speak that is benevolent and with no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time? Is it Isaac, Elaine and Vessa, or other? Isaac, all right. All right, let's see. Sorry, I got a bit of thing with my throat going on. So, I need my crystal. I just have Shungite nuggets in there. All right. Yeah, I have this Shungite nugget that's right next to these. So, Andara crystal, one of the best channel crystals of all time. So, look for those. Okay. Marvel Bliss has a collection. I'm gonna go look for it. Okay. So, I think. You don't have to go slowly, buddy. Come on. I do feel the need to not use so much speed today. So, this, how can I put this kindly? Since you didn't have me talk on the communication hygiene episode, I will say one thing that falls under Q&A, since Q&A is more the same as saying miscellaneous, sort of. I will say that any problem that you have internally, be it large or small, has the ability to become larger in nature, in the self, and for the environment, no matter how old or how new. It's all based on ancient, believe it or not, in the genetic memory, but of course you have the lineage curses and the genetic crap like that, and you know all about that part. But if you have, say, SSP crap, and you acknowledge you have SSP crap, at some point, your mind, as well as your heart and soul, must rectify these things. The soul always remembers. The Velodians were showing him where they were hitting this part of his mind with sound frequency waves to keep the brain waves stabilized. Accessing all parts is not necessary. Integration is. For communication hygiene to be good. Now, say your teeth, for example. If something is wrong with one of them, isn't there something wrong with the totality of the face? Where if you can't chew on a particular side, does that not throw off the stride of the totality of the face? A knee injury does not throw the stride off of the back and the other components of the skeleton. This is what they wanted to relay. They harbor no ill will. They have seen far worse condition. But there are aspects to those of people that are listening. You were talking about this on your roundtable a little while ago, the human consciousness group, whereas you must find a state of balance no matter how old or how new the trauma is. And in this case, it's both. But I would much rather go into questioning at this point.
Well, we'll stick on the subject. So it's a great topic because it's affecting so many people. So, you know, when people have these kinds of memories and or things that have been suppressed that are coming up either quickly or not so quickly, and how do you deal with it? I do have a direct question because I wonder what the true definition or perspective of that definition that yourselves and others are coming from when they use the word integration.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, it kind of feels like, well, I would use that with anything, meaning you have an oversoul who can take on parts of that aspect, parts of the aspect, you keep what is good for you, and you don't integrate the whole totality of it because some of it isn't good for you. Now, the oversoul will take on that aspect of it. But my question is that I think some people's belief system is they have to hold on to it all.
Yes, you're right. And is it always necessary? No, but it also depends on the path by which someone came in. Some bring it back with ease because they were meant to relay it to a much larger audience, not in little spurts. Some came in for the express purpose of relaying what took place as their primary mission. If this isn't your primary mission, and you're attempting to do this. You may have rougher waters. Of course, there's free will. You may have a rougher time. But if you're somewhere in the middle where this is integrated into the mission why you came in, plus other things, you have to experience the other thing. Well, have to is too strong of a word. You experience other things. And yes, I'm aware other people out there have to are two words. Yes. Now, they like poking fun at me. Anyway, you experience all these other things. When these things have become reconciled, there are no more outbursts, there are no more traumas, there are no more of these things. Now, do you carry some things until death sometimes because maybe something was too great and it takes crossing to fix? Yes, in some situations you are correct. You would be correct in that. Like also animals, when they cross over, they grab ailments from people and they cross over. Some always try to attribute this to Jesus, but don't give him all that credit. It is a real concept by which then you grab a bunch of things and you move on to the other side. Don't become this. This is one of the stupidest things you could do, but it is possible to do it. Don't. I mean, I suppose if you're on your deathbed and you're taking something the other side, fine. But 9 times out of 10, don't be retarded. So, with this said, though, with these traumas, don't live in those spaces. Yes, the reason sometimes they keep coming up, even for him, is because it's the soul wishing to reconcile things and fix things and integrate properly. This is what is asked for. When you say for the highest good, or if you do your law of one, what are you asking for? As he likes to say, or as Freddie Mercury also said, life is not a bed of roses. And he would be right. It's not a bed of roses. I know in the New Age community, that's what they were expecting. In reality, it's a road of glass shards a lot of these times. Highest good does not always mean la 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 la. It means stepping on glass like you saw in Die Hard with your bare feet. And the bad guys shooting more glass to get you to cut yourself more so that you don't repair the cuts and the wounds and the blood and the trauma. That is what's essentially going on.
So I can certainly understand you saying that some people are going to bring it back all because they're going to find a way to balance it because they need to present it.
Some are meant to.
Some are meant to, and I get it. And again, they may not, they're going to walk on a lot of shards of glass during that process of remembrance.
Because in order then to open all this up, some of those things must come to light. You cannot erase that history, nor should you. This is what those people's paths are.
Okay, but there are plenty other people that this is not actually their path.
Yes, exactly.
And so, again, it is a false statement to say to yourself that you must integrate it all back in. It's not true and nothing is lost. I think that's part of it.
Nothing is ever lost.
Nothing is ever lost because you want to just, what only is for your highest good to remember, and then let the oversoul have the rest. You can review it when you leave this life. It's all there to be reviewed, and or maybe at times still available to be pulled out of a file cabinet if needed at a moment, whatever that moment is that you need it. So it's not quite exactly like that. So the question then becomes, if you are somebody that is in an integrated process, be it one who's meant to remember more or be it one who's not, either way, it doesn't matter.
Or a piece, yeah.
Okay, or a piece. Is there something that the individuals can do themselves to maybe choose to integrate it at a higher processing rate that is not unhealthy for them?
That's actually more of an oxymoron than you think.
I know, right?
Because integrating it in at a much faster rate, you run into not only frequency issues like what Hajamal famously keeps saying, and others also say on both the YouTube and Rumble, mostly the forest people, they're saying memory is frequency and frequency is memory. Each and every time you integrate and you begin to remember, you are tapping into that frequency. What does that equate here? You begin to match what took place there. This is how the ships travel. He always says frequency here, changing this one here to this one, you go to that. This is a natural set of energetic frequency value physics. Happens every single time without fail. When you integrate, you are literally hitting all of those notes, those sound and light frequencies every single time. This is what drew the attention to him where he got sick in 21. This is what happened the first time. Memory is frequency, frequency is memory. You travel from one space-time, place in space-time, to another. And if that time has frequency, like he says, the Giorgio character went into an aphasia in Discovery because of temporal frequency, it's the same thing. You can go into a catatonic mental collapse because the frequencies of one time frame to the next do not equate, or one timeline to the next do not equate. Now, if you are going into these things as a form of escapism, that's never the way. If you are going into these things as a form of fame, that is never the way. If you're going into these aspects as a form of healing, or these memories as a form of healing, and then giving them and regurgitating them to others to where they could begin those healings, bingo, you've hit it. Any other thing between self-healing and healing of others is not applicable to the integration. None of it. If fame comes because of it and it is meant to spread that information, so be it. If the acquisition of resources comes up because of it, that's what was meant to happen. One goes before the other. Just like frequency creates money and creates wealth. Yes, that is being blocked because of the giveth unto Caesar mentality, or you'll be poor and be happy crap. That, again, we know the spells behind it. This does not equate to what I'm saying. Yes, the movements need wealth. Absolutely. The true ones operate in frequency, and wealth is integrated into that. Now, with the bringing back of memories, the reason it is crucial, especially with ones as large as you guys, that it cannot be done all at once, is because of the frequency. Primarily and most of all, you're in a frequency at the moment where it is still, calm. Imagine every moment in this life, not to mention that one, that part, of course that's part of this life, anyway. Imagine every moment at all that you've ever had here. Say one day you forgot and it was reintegrated immediately. What would happen? You'd have an emotional burst and then you'd be fine. Imagine something much longer than this body's lifespan or this brain's lifespan in this time continuum hits. It's 3 or 4 times as large. What could happen? The brain wants to instantly codify and quantify. What if it can't? Because it intersects and fits in at the same time other events took place. The brain wants to be linear. What happens? Like the androids in the original Star Trek, they all went when they got hit with paradox bombs. It's a paradox bomb. Even though there is logic to it through the physics and through the time travel physics and through all of it. The frequency creates a paradox bomb. All at once, everything, everywhere happening all at once. But the brain, if the heart is not included, cannot quantify or codify a paradox bomb. This is why you see those androids in Star Trek, because they weren't emotional. The heart must be involved in order to help the brain quantify. The left brain can't do by itself. The right brain, intuitive side, creative side, all of it, heart, mind, creative thing, or critical thinking, all of it must be grounded in order to do this properly. There is no other methodology behind it that functions with retightening the bolts in a specific way. Otherwise, the bolts stay loose, you have a screw loose, and we all know what happens then.
Well, it's an interesting conversation that really people need to understand. So if I heard you correctly, I'm going to restate.
Mhm.
If I heard you correctly, what you're basically saying is that in this integration process, let's say now in your life right now, you're vibrating at a bit of a higher frequency vibration. You bring in the SSP, which most people will say we're of lower vibrational experiences.
You bet.
Absolutely. And so there is no other way around. You're going to go through some of that lower vibrational state as it integrates. If you try to bring in too much at one time, then basically the incompatibility is so great to your current vibrational source,
Yes.
it will cause great physical harm to the person.
No matter how slow this is, there's going to be waves because you're dealing with two completely contradictory, not only time frames, but energies. Yes, everything exists all at once, but think of it another way. Are you, even though everything always is one, like in the law of one, are you this desk? Are you that blade of grass out there? Are you that window, microphone, computer? No. If you tried to enter that frequency of any of these things, could you? No. Your brain there, especially in a clone body, decoded and encoded reality vastly differently. From the time of a child, they choose children because of the time travel projects, because of the adaptability of children versus adults. Dying from what? Frequency integration and clash. It's the reason in those projects like Montauk and all of those, and Pegasus and all of these things. This is why the children survived and the adults did not. Children brains more malleable. That's why they choose them for the projects. As an adult, you try to reintegrate this crap in, it's the same thing. Frequency clash to the extreme. They ran into it every damn time in the projects. There has never been a way or a methodology or a workaround or a cure behind it because there is none. Because it has to do with frequency. No amount of shielding protects against this because it's not protection you need. It is integration. It is the mind was never meant to operate in multiple realities at once. That is the soul. The soul remembers. The body was never meant to have its cells torn asunder and gone into multiple time frames at once. The human genome has not gotten that far along yet.
And so again, when you're dealing with people, and there certainly are people that have had a long experience in the SSP, what people refer to as multiple 20s and back.
Yes.
You have people with these long periods of time,
Yes.
and they, of course, would be highly detrimentally subjected if something was trying to integrate, to bring back a totality of, as you're saying, lifetimes, what would be considered lifetimes of experiences. It is so detrimental to the body, pretty much guaranteed that, what people that are bringing back, that are sharing their information, is not the totality of an experience.
Not
it's
even
enough
close.
of it's little bits and pieces here and there to be able to paint a broad stroke picture of what was going on. So again, I hope people really listen to this. This is a very interesting, again, conversation, because there are either human beings as healers and or other races as healers that, probably ponder when they see maybe this walled off section of memory in someone's mind. Does it need to come down? Does it need to be integrated? Do I strip that apart? And it's a very interesting conversation, because what advice would you give to either, again, human people trying to do healing and they see a bubble, or a group that's seeing a bubble? Some of these bubbles are there for the person's own highest good.
Yes, the mind is protecting itself from being shredded apart. This is what the suppression bubble is, even though it was forced. The mind sees a conundrum, a paradox. It's like your doctor figure, holographic doctor figure in Voyager, where he came across the paradox of how he couldn't save 2 lives, but yet he is a doctor. But he went through a paradox loop. That's what they were showing. That showed a certain form of sentience. That is actually from the project, because the human mind going through these. enters into the paradoxical infinity loop like you saw the character do. And that's how they figured how to repair him after a while. They figured remove the memory or reintegrate. They chose both. Take it for a little bit, then give it back to him as choice, and then he worked it out. That was actually 100% accurate to the project because of the fact when somebody died and he couldn't save the other person, but he chose one or the other, and he had a loop with his own ethical subroutines. This has to do with also the loosening of the heart in favor of, ethical looseness, as well as whatever the project's called for. That's PTSD, like if you're on a battlefield, end up having to shoot a bad guy, but yet you're dealing with the ethics of that. That had to do with that too. But with the frequencies of the suppression bubble, he calls it a suppression bubble. It is more the mind's way of not allowing itself to be torn apart. But yes, can the subconscious hold on to things too tightly? You bet. But imagine a constipated turd so large that the colon would rip itself apart just to extrude it. What does this mean? You have to take a medicine that cuts up that demon turd to so where you can poop properly. For the subconscious, it's trying to poop out a demon turd. What the subconscious knows to do when it starts to let that out and let that fart is essentially letting the gas out first. That's what some people do if they're trying not to shit their pants. They try to let the gas out. This is what the subconscious is doing. It's letting the gas out. Imagine what that demon turd looks like if this is what the gas looks like, if this is what the fart looks like. This is what you're up against.
And it's important for people to know because, again, they may not recognize themselves that what they're seeing is just the air being let out, not the totality of the monster. The monster that's actually
you're getting its breath. You are not getting its body. This is when people are getting some of these memory fragments back, you're getting its fart. They are not getting. They're getting its fart. They are not getting the totality of the GI tract. Let's just put it that way.
Right.
They are good because that's also the time travel projects. One of the first things it fucked up was people's GI tracts. Also, this is why I'm bringing this up. It gave every form of colitis, diseases, IBS, all of it, because parts of the body could not handle being torn apart and put back together again. You always hear the character in Star Trek, Dr. Leonard McCoy, saying it's unnatural to be ripped apart atom by atom and put back together again. Why he was afraid of the transporter. That is a genuine fear. And there's also the metaphysical concerns. Is this a transporter clone over and over again? Both have happened, by the way. That's why that's why Roddenberry integrated that into Star Trek. Because these are genuine fears. What effect will this have later? A temporal psychosis, which is what the suppression bubble can cause, or anatomy psychosis where the body cannot rectify, no pun intended, rectum, but in this, cannot rectify or reconcile being torn apart and put back together. Has this technology in the galactic realm been fixed? Oh, you bet. There's transporters all over the place. They prefer portals, mind you, but some portals can do the same thing with the frequencies. But if you're not prepared frequency-wise for this, you would not be prepared for anything else. Now, is there technology out there that can safely reintegrate all of us? Mm-hmm. Is it accessible to even the SSP? No. And some of those agencies just did not give a shit. They knew what the paradox loop would look like in the end. They knew what this would look like. They knew they had cornered the physics, just like in your Interstellar, where they said they couldn't rectify the relativity with the black holes, gravity kind of thing, and they ended up figuring out they had to go inside of there and then send the message from the inside out for the data. That's essentially the conundrum that you're running into. We have not, your eggheads down here have not been able to figure out the reconciliation of the paradox loop. This is the edge of their mental capacity. No insult to some of them, but this is the end or the edge of their knowledge. But they figured okay, we'll just go into other dimensions and find the knowledge, like good explorers in some cases. Some were more altruistic, others were more evil, as you know, like with the Nakwath and all of them, did not give a shit. It was more in the moment of whatever they were planning to do. Other scientists were more caring. It's like, no, we have to figure out a solution to this because these have long-term effects, just like they find with Agent Orange having long-term effects, or with the COVID, now vaccines will have long-term effects. At the time, it was not cared, it was only to advance. And if you have, again, no heart in it, you shouldn't be doing it.
So the question there becomes, because obviously, again, I say humans, but now because of tech healing or whatever, I have to kind of go to the more medically oriented alien type groups that wish to help people, and they see this. I'm sure they have experimented on, well, what do we do if for healing purposes, we need to try and get that integration, or we need to, depress this, or we need to let this happen because we want to see the ultimate in healing. And then they realize they have opened their own Pandora's box.
They've already done it. They have already done it. They have tried it in multiple variations. The person has died every single time because of the aforementioned. They figured, okay, let's try this. We have to pop these things back out. Boing! And the person's dead. I mean, you can get a little bit, like Randy Kramer was talking about, here, and here. But, again, this goes back to path. Yes, can this be integrated into the path? Absolutely. Some are primary that, some are not. You guys sit somewhere in the middle. This also goes to how much of this is supposed to be out in the open. That's your choice, but just know, for every choice, there is its polar opposite. There are consequences behind this. Yes, the Velodians did tap into that because they needed to see the totality of the problem. They now see the totality of the problem. They hold no malice. They knew the other side of the yin-yang had nastiness to it. They have seen far worse, believe it or not, with some of this integration process. They do know they are abhorrent to it for these reasons.
So when they see this in somebody, be it Chris or be it anyone else.
The psychosis is actually expected.
Right. But the question then becomes, is there a moment where they realize we need to plug this genie back up in this bottle?
Plug is too strong of a word. That is not possible. Integrate what has been let out. Not all of it has been let out. Like I said, fart. You let out that demon turd. No. It's merely the gas has just been let out. So otherwise, this thing, you'll never have to worry about somebody shitting their pants on this big thing turd. It's not possible. This thing is too dense and too spheroid in nature and too hardened. This has to be chiseled away at, little by little by little, but it accumulates more gas around it. I'm saying metaphorically, it's not actually a gas sac or a gas bladder. It is a trauma, and also temporally based in a frequency and memory, like what I said, and you let out that aura of it. This is what you two have been experiencing. It's its aura, not the black hole that it actually has been. You don't know the totality of your experiences. You only know a fraction of it, and you've been building the rest of the story behind it, of which is still true. And some others have done this as well, but you don't know the totality.
Right. I'm not in favor of it. I'm never in favor of it because I have great faith that when I need to know it, I'll pull something out of the library of the totality of me, or I'll see it again on the other side, or maybe not because I already lived it once.
The soul remembers.
Right. So I'm not really a big fan of that. I think probably part of me already knew of this kind of trauma that you're talking about, that how bad it is. But the question then becomes, if in a true healing benevolent sense, that there was felt a need that some gas had to come out of the colostomy bag, let's say, and they had to burp the bag. And I'm assuming it's sounding more like that, is what you're saying.
Yes. What ended up happening is, it's well said because they were also fixing the GI tract, but And that was being directly affected by all the energies that it has to digest. He calls them ghost poop because the body will try to create waste out of whatever the energy is. It transmutes it through shit and piss. So what happened? That's a natural ability of the human body. Other filters like your appendix and your gallbladder and stuff have to take on some of this. The liver takes on some of this, and then the stomach takes it on, and voila, you have ghost shit. But in this, they knew this was going to happen. They have seen this from SSP veterans across the board. They are working diligently on how to pop a suppression bubble and instantly chisel away at this. With some of their equipment, can they do it? Yes and no. Could they go into a room for a few hours and have this integrated? Yes and no. So a lot of the dangers can be subverted in a way, but it's still ghost shit. It still haunts. But are there ways they're working on? Yeah, they are, to keep the danger out of the way. The magnetic and energetic fields of the earth sometimes will chisel away at this automatically. It's the physics of the frequencies you run into on earth and dimensions. Will this eventually be found? The cure for this kind of thing be found? Absolutely, they're working on this because it has been highly requested of them. But again, people would have to meet them physically. Could they wipe memories? Yes, but they would be compounding the problem at that point. So the point is, they let off the vapors. These are the vapors you're getting, the smell, the bad smell of the big pile of shit that just is behind it.
Burping the colostomy bag.
Yes.
It's about the same thing.
Yes.
So, so what the next logical question would be for those, and again, this isn't just happening here, folks. This is happening to a lot of people. When this burping occurs and this begins, in typical, on average, from your perspective, how long before this process does it normally take a person to come to a more balanced place?
Depends on the person, depends on their fortitude and endurance with it, but it also depends on the amount of information that has been released within those fumes. Within those fumes is frequency, and within those frequencies, memory of information. And I can say yes, is some of it necessary for what you guys are here for. That's another reason they did it. They noticed this. They were advised on this by Oversoul, his Oversoul, and others as well, Soul Family, that there was some things that needed repairs in that area, and it needed to be remembered. Just know, whatever memory you get back is usually for the moment and the frequency it is needed in. And you see this with others where, again, they recover more. Again, path and usage. Where is it being used and for what? Yeah, are there shills out there doing it? Absolutely. But are there regular people doing it in the background? Absolutely again. But can the genie ever be put back in the bottle? Absolutely not. But can it be integrated? These fumes be integrated properly and with the proper application of not only heart space, intuition, soul, all of it. Yes. But again, at the end of the day, you're still dealing with the fart. And some can be nastier than others. This one is more silent but deadly in this particular instance because it creeps up on you like a dagger.
Right.
And the other version of you can become that dagger and go, no, I am the supreme consciousness. None of that's true. The soul remembers all of it, including altars. It's another expression of Oversoul as far as the library is concerned. Good, bad, and ugly all between. Can they get infected too? Absolutely, and you know damn well that can happen. That the avatar has to say enough, and the soldier has to coordinate with the helicopter pilot. The helicopter pilot can't see all of it, then the soldier has to go room to room in an apartment building or house. That's how he likes to say both. Both in beautiful analogy. He does the soldier analogies because that's what he was in the background there. But after the fume integration is done, does that creepy file cabinet ever have to be looked at again? That's the question, isn't it? The question is where and when and how. Not everything. Only what is needed. In the moment in which it is needed, for whom it is needed, and for what it is needed. No other application need be looked into. Yes, you've seen others accessing all this. What do they get trapped in? Trauma loops. Yes, they have their own AA form of AA meeting that they need this for. But there comes a time where you move on from it and you move forward. Then that integration, if more farts, becomes easier. And then you may not get all of it back by the time you leave this world. Yes, good stuff. There is good stuff in there too, which I am in full favor of that coming back, but it still applies that it is more information than your current human brain can handle. There is wonderful things in there, beautiful things, which he's starting to remember, but it is slow. We have tried to aid in its slow integration because there was trauma that also accompanied it. In that interim, it still applies. The rules still apply.
Well, thank you. I think we're gonna kind of end this here, give you last words to anything that's been spoken about today, and then we'll go ahead and end this show for today.
I never have last words. It's always continuous. But we hold no malice towards this psychosis because it was expected. Given no matter how much you try to mentally prepare for the suppression bubble farting, some can be worse than others. This was more of a silent but deadly because he was around strong magnetic fields from the pieces being made, as well as the Velodians working on it. Little did he know this is what he asked for. What is in the now, in the moment of time, the highest good? This is what it was asked for. With no true benevolence, with no conflicting agendas, this is what was asked for. This is what is being granted. Albeit slow in some areas, they hold no malice because they've seen this 1,000 times. It's another Tuesday afternoon for them. But they have great compassion and concern over this, as do the forest people. But it will be fixed to within the tolerance point of the mind's ability to tolerate and accept it. No other. No matter how much he bitches about it. It cannot be done. It's a matter of the energetic vibratory value physics. You cannot defy those physics no matter how advanced you are, no matter how advanced the soul is, no matter how advanced the technology is. You cannot defy it. It's just that the only reason people think that somebody's defying the laws of physics is because their understanding of the laws of physics are not as educated as those that look like they're breaking them. Just like when any craft, anything comes into this dimension, they conform to these laws of physics. Like he always says, the Farscape analogy where Crichton's friend, the ancient being Jack, comes through. He looks like a Muppet when he comes from his dimension to ours, Jim Henson Muppet, and then he transmorphs into his father's look, like the whole Contact Jodie Foster thing. It's because he explains, he comes through, and he has to conform to our physics. And same thing with dimensional crafts. That's why they have some weird shapes, because they're going from one dimensional space to another into our realm, and that's what they look like. This is that form of physics manifest in this realm, because it's involving these fractal timelines, fractal, all of it, time travel, portals, vibratory frequencies, the firmament, all of it. This was not, of course, it was meant to be as an experience, but the human body is not used to this. It's just like if you encounter a being of a really high vibration, it always feels like you're dying because you think that's spirit, when it isn't. Other insiders have said this before. This is still true of this. Vibratory frequencies. Frequency is memory, memory is frequency. This is all I have to say on this, but this is still true. And there's others need to hear that too.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Goodbye now. All right. Okay. Yeah. So to briefly said, yes, he was correct on all counts. It's rough when that suppression bubble farts, because like with any fart, it could turn into something else real quick. And that he uses poop as an analogy.
That's a great analogy.
And that's true. That is probably the best analogy I've ever heard for this. People going into the SSP stuff, you do not know what you are experiencing is the fart cloud. You don't know what the big demon turd looks like, and you probably don't. I'm not saying don't look at the dark shadows of things where you have to do shadow work. You must. But this is more in the physics category and quantum mechanics and quantum temporal physics category. It's a paradox, but know that knowing about it, it's either your path or it isn't. That's usually where I'm at with this. So I think we're good at the end of this so far. So I have to put my glasses back on to read this. So, okay. Everything's blue and weirdly purple in here. Okay. This is another one by Brian Wilson. So, which I found it interesting he came through. To music, my one true love. To the journey, may it be lived. To innovation, your soul speaks through actions. To love and despair, respectively. You both rocked my world. Musician, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys. So, found it interesting. So, at this moment in time, I don't know if you have anything to add to this, Joanna?
No.
So, at this moment in time, I now close this circle within true benevolence and no conflicting agendas as of this moment in time. Thank you, and don't let that suppression bubble be an Achilles heel, guys. SSPers. So, bye-bye, everybody.